York's first congressional district is becoming increasingly more important as Democrats look to take back control of the House this fall. Democratic congressional candidate John Avlon, a former anchor at CNN, is hoping to flip the Long Island swing seat currently held by Republican Nick LaLota. Congressman LaLota won the race in 2022 by 11 points, just 2 years after President Biden managed to eke out a victory in the district by just 0.2 percentage points. And John Avlon joins us now. So why are you running?
I'm running because this is what I think we need to do. This is a time for citizens to step up. As a journalist, I've always warned about dangers to democracy. As writing, presidential histories, there are times where our country is in danger, and I think this is one of those times. And I didn't want to look my kids in the eye and tell them I could have done more when it mattered most. So, time to get in the arena.
So, John, President Biden won by a very slim margin in 2020 in that district. Nick LaLota, a couple years later, the Republican won by 11 points. What are the trends in that district, and what are people talking about as you go out and shake hands?
Look, first of all, LaLota is the first one of those Republicans who represent a district that Biden won to endorse him, right? So he's one of these like Trump flunkies, does whatever he says, far too far right for the district. He's a follower, not a leader. And I think that's out of step. This is a swing seat. That means there are a lot of, moderate Republicans, those folks who are voting for Nikki Haley this time around, who I think are persuadable. They're independent voters who I think you can win a majority over if you fire up the base. And I think this election is going to be a very different model than 22, for example, when Lee Zeldin, the former congressman who held this seat, was running for governor. And that's one of the things that made that an outlier.
Is it immigration,
election.
John? The economy? What do you hear most?
Immigration and crime are issues for sure. We saw that in Tom Suozzi's race in neighboring New York 3. But here's what, as I knock on doors, it's petitioning time. And so I'm knocking on doors in Northport and Brookhaven. And I spoke to one woman named Beverly. And what she said really stood out because it was both typical and distinct. First of all, I said to her, what's driving you this election? She said, Donald Trump. He's dangerous. We got to stop him. He's a danger to our democracy. Then I said, what else? And she said the thing everybody else says, affordability. She said, I was just cutting coupons at my kitchen table to go to the grocery store later. But what she said was interesting. She said, I'm frustrated. I don't know that it's just inflation anymore. I think there's price gouging by companies. I don't know what it is. But that was an interesting sort of, twist on what you hear as a constant complaint around housing, healthcare costs. Affordability is the number one issue that people are feeling in Suffolk County.
So, as just mentioned, we just had a race on Long Island to replace the seat vacated by George Santos. Tom Suozzi, Democrat, won. One of the things he did was really blame Republicans for the downfall of the border security bill. I assume that's in your playbook as well.
100%.
What other lessons did you learn from that race?
Look, I actually want to hammer that home because it speaks to the hypocrisy and the cowardice and the cynicism that we see. And Nick LaLota, the current congressman from the district, is complicit in it. If you're going to make people afraid of the migrant crisis, and it's a real issue, no question, right? Then you got an obligation to fix it. And Republicans got the border security bill they wanted. Democrats would rather have comprehensive immigration reform. We know that's how to solve the problem. But Republicans said, no, for Ukraine, Taiwan, and Israel funding, you got to do border security standalone. And then, of course, Donald Trump walked in and said, nope, don't back this bipartisan bill. Toughest bill you'd ever see. Border Security Patrol wanted it. Nick LaLota tweeted. He mocked Senator James Lankford, the conservative Oklahoma senator, for doing this. He said, my 9-year-old could have done a better job negotiating bedtime than Lankford did on this bill. And that's the kind of BS people are sick of. If you're going to inflame folks, if you're going to try to fearmonger and fundraise...
His 9-year-old
that's
could
what he said.
Actually negotiate a bill better than what Republicans say is the toughest border security bill. Maybe the 9-year-old should run because what Lankford did was nothing short of extraordinary.
Yeah. And so, look, and this, what really infuriates folks is that they're not even putting up for a vote because they know it would pass. But when LaLota mocked it, I'm sorry. If you're going to fearmonger and fundraise off a problem and refuse to fix it, that's a firing offense.
Yeah.
Mike?
So irresponsible.
John, you've only been out there now, what, a couple of weeks?
2 weeks.
2 weeks. And what do you hear across the 2 weeks going door to door and walking around the district about the 2 Gs, the grocery store and the gas station, that play an important part in people's lives, added to the kitchen table where they sit down and write checks to pay off their credit card interest rates? What do you hear about those? And that, I always couch it as it's not how much money you have, it's the absence of money in your lives.
That's right. Look, this is the fundamental issue. It's affordability. It's the middle class has been squeezed for decades, and folks are frustrated about it. And they got a right to be. And so I think strengthening the middle class is one of the things that we need to do as a country. It's not an accident to me that the middle of our politics have been hollowed out while the middle of our economy has been hollowed out. And they need to show that government can work for them again. I think we can do that with things like restoring the SALT deduction that was taken away, expanding the child tax credit. I think we need more affordable housing that works in conjunction with communities to increase supply and lower costs. Folks are really feeling affordability crisis at home. And of course, there's climate change. There's a lot of concern about protecting women's reproductive freedom. Because if you're voting Republican, they're going to put back that national restrictions in place. So, but affordability is the key issue, and leaning into strengthening the middle class and everything we can do to do that. That's what we need to be focused on. That's behind the fact that sleepwalking into degradation of our democracy. We all got to be wide awake in America right now.
So you're knocking on doors.
Yep.
You're planting yard signs, shaking a lot of hands. It sounds like you've decided, despite being in TV and being in media for a while, looks like you've decided that you're going to run a hardcore grassroots campaign.
Got to do it. Got to do it. Look, this is about meeting folks where they are. It's about doing the work. You got to earn every vote. We've got a primary first, of course. You got to earn every vote and talk to folks where they are. That's the way look, democracy, decisions are made by people who show up. I'm going to show up.
Democratic congressional candidate John Avlon, thank you very much.
Thank you.
John,
watching.
what's your website if people want to help out?
JohnAvlon.com. I appreciate it.